as promised, I told y'all this week I'll be doing a lot of Tupac videos because you guys asked me a lot about Pac, and I do hear you. I do the majority. I thought I had done a lot already to this point, but it's a lot of stuff people wanted to know about, and I new information on it. So I said, well, might as well just tell them. You know, at this point, it don't matter. So all this week, we're gonna be giving you Pac. So let's talk about the rape case. The alleged rape case. Did he rape the girl? Did he not rape the girl? First off, as we always do, we always start from the beginning. Okay? When Tupac met this girl, he was at the club. That we know. Okay, so it's not like whether it was a setup or anything else. It wasn't like this was all one night. People get everything confused. Okay, because in the beginning, he met this girl before any of that even took place. Okay, because he went to Club 88. He was there with a couple of his homies, you know, that he met from New York. We all know who the people are by now. And, you know, big, heavy-handed people in New York who had money. And they hang around a lot of celebrities because of that fact. And they real cool with Kenny Anderson. They used to play for the Nets, not the Knicks. So they up in Jersey, Club 88, and so was all else was there. Ronnie Lott from the 49ers was up there. DC, Derek Coleman was up in there, and a lot of NBA players is in there, but it's not as packed. You know, it's very, you know, upper echelon type of place. So when they up in there, you know, they talking, oh, Tupac, man, you know, so yeah, he was in a good mood, you know, and a girl came in with one of the homies, and she wanted to meet Tupac, and they tapped on the shoulder and was like, you know, old girl over there want to meet you, and she was like waving and all this stuff, and he was like, all right, he was talking with somebody in the corner, and he came on the dance floor, and then he tapped on her back, and then she turned around and it was Tupac. And he was like, I heard you want to talk to me, blah, blah, blah. So they started dancing and all that. And then they went in the corner off the dance floor, and she started performing oral sex, as I've been informed. Now, as this thing happens and everything goes down, he said, let's get out of here. You know, like, it's congested. I want to see you, you know, later on tonight. Let's go ahead and let's kick it. And she was all excited and all this stuff. So they go ahead and she get in the car, and they go in the hotel room. They go in the car, you know, go in the room, and Pac basically is like, look, I gotta get up early in the morning. You know, you can stay here or you can go home. Which one you want to do? And she left her number, and she was gone. Went to the crib, and everything was all good. Pac's agent called her, and you know, told her they was finna perform in Jersey. Pac's agent got on the phone, called her, because the guys that was there, he was kicking it with, was like, man, why don't you give old girl a call? So, you know, and have her come through. So they all in there waiting to do the show. And the agent called and said that Tupac, you know, wanted to see you and everything else, and could you come by? And she was like yeah. So she was like really excited about it. And Tupac thing was, he was saying, I wasn't even, feeling it for the, like, it was alright, but I wasn't, he had a show to do, so he wasn't thinking like what everybody else thinking. But they was like, you should get old girl a call. So we all sitting in the hotel, they drinking, waiting on the show. The girl called back, and she talked to the agent, and she's coming over, and they all watching TV, and she's downstairs, and she needed somebody to come pay for the cab. So she came up there looking all nice, like she was dressed like she was going out somewhere. She was all excited to see Tupac. So she went over there and sat on the chair next to him, and the dude started looking at her like, like they ready to run. So Pac told her, like, let's go in the back room, and she giving him a massage, they kissing and all this stuff, and then the dudes bust in the room, and they jump, and dudes start looking at her crazy and touching on her and saying she got a fat butt and all this stuff, and Pac just left. And he's like, the only thing that he felt embarrassed about was the fact that he didn't say anything, like, hey man. But he's like, if I'd have said that, that would have been like making her like my girl, because according to what he knows, like, this is her, like, they know her. He don't know her like that. He just met her. They basically, he's like, oh girl, want to talk to you. So he thinking like this is some girl they know as well too. So he just like, whatever. He touching her and all this stuff and saying she got a nice, what. And then they like, man, pull her panties down, and all that stuff. Pac just got out the room. It's like, I ain't finna be involved with pretty much none of this. So he went back to the other suite to talk to his agent about what they had going on for the day. Then he went on the couch, and then they was waking him up talking about some Pac, man, the police coming. We got police downstairs. And he was like, what you talking about? He was like, oh, girl is upset. And he's like, what? And then the girl came out the room, her clothes on, nothing torn or ripped off. She just upset. She crying, why you let them do this to me? And he's like, she not making any sense to me. She's like, I came to see you and you let them do this to me. I don't got, and Pac like, I ain't got time for this. Like, get her out of here. You got to chill out with this. Stop yelling at me and looking at me all crazy. And she said, this is not the last time you gonna hear from me. And then when she left, and they was like, oh, don't worry about it, man. We'll handle it, man. She just tripping right now. And then he asked him, like, what went wrong? And he's like, man, it was just too many dudes, I ain't even tripping no more. And he's like, I'm down, I'm up here smoking and all that stuff. And then he get a call from his manager saying, like, the police is down here. And all of a sudden, that's what happened, and everything from that point took its own light, okay? Because ever since then, the story got picked up and it went into something else entirely. Because a lot of people feel Tupac got off for shooting the two cops. You don't never get off from shooting two cops, no matter what happened with the judge, anything else. They made it a personal thing against Tupac. Not saying the police, the government. And if you don't believe Tupac was targeted by the government, then you are living in a bubble of an illusion, because this case had so many holes in it. And out of everybody who was involved in it, Tupac was the one that was hit the most. He was the big profile case. He was the one that's coming over there. All of this stuff, he was the one that they was after, and that they made it, put him in a maximum security prison for murderers and rapists, after they then kicked out every major charge there was that they couldn't get the stick because there's no evidence. He didn't even sleep with the girl that day. She charged him with holding her down and all this when they first came in with sodomizing and all this weapons and all this stuff. And people even believe that the police even planted a gun. That's why the other person that Pac thought set him up and was working for the feds, his lawyer switched his case away from Tupac, and he put a motion in for that because the fact that the gun case was involved, it was like, look, my client didn't have a gun. Period. How you just gonna put a gun case on every single body when nobody was there? And they agreed. So when they took him away and had him trial separately on a whole different case, and then it left Tupac with everybody else on there, it looked like a setup. So for Pac, it did look like that, but it was better for him to go like that route. And his lawyer, they were trying to reach out to Pac to tell him this is why we did what we did. Pac didn't want to hear nothing at that time because everything's going crazy to him. It's like, this is a setup. This is a conspiracy. Because the charges was ridiculous. There's so many holes that was in the story that it started not to make sense. And here is the young lady's story, whose name is Ayanna Jackson. She saw the interview that Kevin Powell did with Tupac, and she went under oath to tell her story. Now, this is her story. She wanted to tell it out to the public and let everybody make up their own mind. So here it is, her version of what happened that night. The victim. A friend of mine took me to Nails, where he introduced me to Nigel and Trevor and all those people whose name is being changed, to be flipped around because we know who they are. And they later introduced her to their friend Tupac Shakur. When she first met Tupac, he kissed her on her neck and made a small talk with her. After a while, she excused herself and started to walk to the dance floor when she felt someone slide their hand into her back pocket of her jeans. She turned around, assuming it was her friend, but she was shocked when she discovered it was Tupac. She danced for a while, and he touched her face, and he brushed his body against hers, and due to a small dance floor and a large amount of people, we were shoved into a dark corner. Tupac pulled up his shirt, took his hand, and traced it down his chest, and sat it on top of his erect penis. He then kissed me and pushed my head down on his penis. And it was a brief 3-second encounter. My lips touched the head of his penis, and it happened so suddenly, I realized I realized what he was doing, and told him he pulled his shirt back down and asked me what I was doing later. I told him that I was going home because I had to work that day. And then people started surrounding him again, and he grabbed my arm and said, "Let's get out of here. I'm tired of people stressing me." We exited and got into a white BMW, pulled up at the Parker Meridian, and went into his suite. We conversed, and then he rolled up some blunts. We started kissing, and then we had oral and vaginal intercourse several times. He called my house a couple of nights later and gave me his Sky pager number and told me he wanted to see me tomorrow. That evening after work, I paged him, and his road manager called me back and informed me that Pac really wanted to see me, but he had to do a show in Jersey, so I should call a car service and take it to the Meridian, and he would pay for the cab. Once I got to the hotel, I met the other guy for the first time. He paid for the cab, and he led me upstairs. Inside the suite, Tupac and his two buddies were sitting in the living room smoking weed and drinking. Tupac told me to come in and pointed to the arm of the sofa. As I sat down, about 20 minutes later, he took me into the bedroom of the suite. He fell on the bed and asked me to give him a massage. So I massaged his back. He turned around and I started massaging his chest, and as we began kissing, the door opened and I heard people entering, and as I started to turn to see who it was, Tupac grabbed my head and told me, "Don't move." I looked down on him, and he said, "Don't worry, baby. These are my brothers. They ain't gonna hurt you. We do everything together." I started to shake my head. No, Pac. I came here to be with you. I came here to see you. I don't want to do this." I started to rise up off the bed, but he brutally slammed my head down. My lips and face came crashing down hard onto his penis. He squeezed the back of my neck, and I started to gag. Tupac and his buddies held me down while the other guy forced his penis into my mouth. I felt hands tearing off my clothing, ripping my stockings and panties off. I couldn't move. I felt paralyzed, trapped, and I started to black out. They leered at my body. "This bitch got a fat ass, she's fine," while they laughed and joked to one another. And all of his friends held me in the room trying to calm me down. They would not leave me. Finally, I got to an elevator which had a panel of mirrors. Once I caught sight of myself, I sank to the floor and started to cry. They came out, picked me up, and brought me back to my suite. Tupac was lying on the couch. In my mind, I'm thinking, this guy just raped me, and he's lying up here like a king, acting as if nothing happened. So I began crying hysterically and shouting, "How could you do this to me? I came here to see you. I can't believe you did this to me." And Tupac said, "I don't have time for this. Get this B out of here." This aforementioned is the true story. It was not a setup. I never knew of any thugs he was hanging with. Tupac knows exactly what he did to me. I admit I didn't make the wisest decisions, but I did not deserve to be gang raped. Okay, now you hear her side of the story. Now, you make up your own mind. Now, when I say hear Tupac's version of what happened, hear her version of what happened, there's a lot of holes. You know, but I don't want to go into touch that, because for women who have been raped and forced into situations like that, I feel bad for them. This is a situation where she was basically starstruck, and she made it as if, you know, she was the one that the star was coming after her more than she was coming after the star. And I have problems with stories like that. It's unrealistic. The oral sex part that when she described it, would have just torn apart our whole story. Because if you can't be open and honest about that, and to say, "I just touched the tip and I came up," like, no, I'm not gonna. Yeah. I mean, it's just, when you hear stuff like that, it's like, no, my blackness won't allow me to continue to believe where you're leading me to believe, because we don't see it as being realistic. Now, you can take your choice to believe either side. Now, this is the part where everything goes into a tailspin. And now it's going to go to something else. It gets bigger than this.